Champion Life TV. We are so glad that you tuned in today. There's a great message in store, so let's go straight to Pastor Eddie.
So what's the solution? What is the thing that God wants us to do? Well, many believers say things like this. Well, it's very simple, Pastor. See a need and meet it. See a need and meet it. I know that sounds spiritual, and I know a lot of believers like to say that. But I want you to know that's not as simple as it sounds. Why do I say that? Because when I drive across this valley and back, I could spend every dollar I have to my name, bankrupt myself, and I could use it all up in the next couple of days around this valley. So then what do? Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. If I authentically seen a need and met it, it would all be gone very quickly. Yeah. There is that much need in our valley. Yeah. So it's not as simple as see a need and meet it. Right. What is it then? Romans chapter 8, verse 14 says, the true children of God are those who are led by God's Spirit, or allows God's Spirit to lead them. My father, Eddie Windsor, who is now home to be with his Lord, passed away last year, but probably 60 years ago, when he started in ministry, he was in a prayer meeting in a little church, and he was sitting there, or kneeling there, because in that prayer meeting they knelt. So he was kneeling in that prayer service, praying, and God spoke to him. And God spoke to him and said, get up, I'm going to take you to meet the needs of some people. And he's like, oh God, well, give me more details. And God just yelled at him in a God kind of good way, get up. So he jumps up and he goes out and he gets in his car and he's like, driving. And he ends up driving and driving. He felt like God was leading him. And he ends up in another community, away from his community, pulls up by this house, and he feels like God wants him to go up to this house that he'd never been before and had no idea who lived in that house. He walks up and he knocks on the door. A lady answers the door. He introduces himself and says, my name's Eddie Windsor. And she says, yeah. And he says, maybe you could help me. Would you know of any reason why God would send me here to your door? Now, how many of you know that's a good way to approach a door? Because she's wondering about now. Did you have any information or reason, or would you know why God would send me here? Because I feel like God sent me here. And as tears began to fill her eyes, she said, Eddie Windsor, just a few moments ago, we were on our knees praying that God would send somebody to this reservation to start a church. We have no church here in our community. And we see here a picture of what God did. In fact, there's my dad right there and my two sisters, and he drove that. That was the equivalent of a 15-passenger van that we have today. And he drove the wheels off that. This tent over here was the first service, and that's my mom and my sisters in that there. That they started that little church within a few weeks in that tent. And then you see over here, that was their first building. This next one here is the next building, and you can see on that side over there my grandpa, who was a pastor as well, and in there is my sisters, and then of course you can see right down here in the front, that's me preaching at my dad's pulpit right there. That was one of my first services. It was a great altar call, a lot of people saved. And if you can't really read it, so I'll read it to you. It was a prophetic T-shirt I had on. It says, I'm a little angel, right there on the front.
We want to invite you to join us at Champion Life Church at any one of our 3 Sunday services. First, we have our 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. services. We also have our later and louder service at 7 p.m. We are located at 72745 Highway 111. We are across from the Westfield Shopping Town behind McDonald's. We hope you come and see us soon. You can also find us on the web at www.championlifechurch.com.
My dad went on not only to plant that church, but to be involved or planting of multiple churches on multiple reservations. And you know what? There's a lot of needs at that time in the communities. And you could say, well, how, Ed, how did you, it was such an overwhelming success story just like that. Well, how did that happen? Well, God led me to that need. That's how you know there needs to respond to. You want to have a heart of generosity, and you want to be just giving. At the same time, you've got to be led by the Spirit because there's more needs than you can handle. And so that's how we as a people are going to know what needs that we are to respond to. We're going to respond based upon the needs that God leads us to. We as a church, we're not going to try to meet every need. But we're going to believe that we meet the needs that God's led us to. And we're going to believe that other churches and other organizations, they are led to the people they're supposed to minister to as well. Our ministry, I would say our church, there's two different facets or two different sides of the coin that we minister to. And when it comes to missions, one is what we call home missions, and the other is what we call world missions. Home missions are what happens